Hello and welcome back to Tinker Talks Guns. Today we're going to be talking about the Smith & Wesson Model 3913, an alloy frame single stack double action single action semi-auto produced by Smith & Wesson up until about 2010. And it's a much more interesting gun than I had ever realized, because during the period from 1990 to about 1990 to about 2010, when the third generation Smith & Wesson semi-autos were produced, they really flew under my radar because they just weren't a gun I was interested in, and they were kind of ubiquitous and very common. But before we get into the weeds, I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon. It's very much a shoestring operation, and your contributions help more than you know. I'd also like to thank channel benefactors, those individuals and businesses that have contributed to the channel in innumerable ways and really helped make this work. As always, shout out to Rain City Shooting Center for providing material support to the channel, and generally being good folks. So, the Model 39, which this is based on, was developed in the early 1950s and went into production in 1955. And this was a prospective replacement. The original 39 was a prospective replacement for the venerable 1911 A1 service pistol. And variations of this gun were in fact used by the military in Vietnam. The Navy Special Warfare officers were equipped with a modified version with a wider frame and a 14-round magazine that later became the Model 59. Also, there were versions of the standard 39 fitted with suppressors or not that were used by the Navy SEALs. And they were one of several guns in Vietnam that they applied the name Hush Puppy to. And overall, they had a very long service history, and a good one, with military and law enforcement throughout the United States and even other parts of the world. Now, the alloy frame proved to be slightly problematic in that it wore more quickly than steel, and plus P loads are really not recommended because they accelerate wear on the alloy frame. But overall, it was a solid, good quality service pistol. Now, in the 1970s, DeVal and Asp made subcompact versions or compact versions of the Model 39, which are rather famous, to specialize them for concealed carry. And Smith & Wesson followed suit with this gun, the 3913, a compact version of the standard service pistol. And a friend of mine showed me this because he's planning on selling it, which he has. And I was really impressed with it because I just never paid any attention to them. But it's a really nicely made gun. It's not overly thick, and it has a lot of really good features. And I was just overall very impressed, and if I hadn't blown my gun budget into the next year, I would have been very tempted to pick this up myself. So, it's nicely made, nicely fitted, nicely finished. It's surprisingly smooth, although there is a lot of mechanical things going on making noise, but the feel is smooth. The slide is fitted appropriately for a service type pistol, and the trigger pull is actually quite good. The safety is a hammer drop type, and it doesn't drop the hammer and then release. It is an actual safety that stays on. There is a magazine disconnect, which means that if you're in a tussle and control of the gun is contested, you could drop the magazine and the pistol will theoretically stop working. According to all the information I've seen, this one does not seem to have a magazine disconnect safety. If it does, it has been disabled. But this is a feature that did actually save lives of a couple of police officers in different incidents over the decades, which, like I said, this gun does not appear to have. Now, I don't mind that because I really don't think that that's a useful feature for concealed carry for civilians. But it is what it is. Anyway, what's it like to shoot? As it turns out, it's really nice to shoot. Now, it does have a fairly high bore axis, but with the target loads I was shooting, this really didn't matter. It performed very well. It was quite accurate. And more importantly, it was easy and pleasant to fire. So, let's have a look at it on the tabletop. The Smith & Wesson 3913 is about exactly the same size and very close to the weight of a Glock 19. A little bit less barrel, and it weighs 24 ounces. As mentioned, it is double action, single action with a hammer drop safety. That is an actual safety. Now, these sights appear to be aftermarket. I'm not positive of that, but it certainly appears to be. And they give a good sight picture. They are 3-dot with tritium inserts. The neoprene grip is very, very comfortable. Now, I personally do not prefer neoprene for a concealed carry pistol because I found a lightweight cover garment. It feels kind of sticky and it can catch on the lightweight cover garment and cause it to print. But that is a personal issue. The double action trigger is very, very smooth and not overly heavy. I think the handy dandy Lyman trigger gauge is at 9.5 pounds, which is not bad, and it is super smooth. And technically you can stage it, but honestly you're better off just pulling straight through. The single action pull is, of course, you have significant take up. It's the nature of double action, single action semi-autos. But once you're there, it releases very crisply, nice and light, about 3.5 pounds. And the reset is excellent. It is literally 1911 short. Makes it very nice to fire quickly with accuracy. Takedown is very much standard for anything even vaguely derived from a Browning design. You pull the slide back to here, and then you can pop out the slide release, and everything takes apart from there pretty much like you'd expect. There is a full-length guide rod, which is not a captured recoil system, but you know, it's pretty easy to deal with. And with the alloy frame, the good ergonomics, and a nice deep undercut on the trigger guard, so with the little heel on the magazine, even people with very large hands have no difficulty getting a good grip. So quite nice in that regard. And it's overall just a very nicely made gun. Now there is a little bit of slop in the slide, but very little. And honestly, you know, the barrel lockup is what's really important for ultimate mechanical accuracy rather than the slide frame fit, unless it is extraordinarily sloppy. This is not. So overall, I do love the checkering on the front here. Gives a really good grip. And also, by the way, there's checkering here for those that prefer the European style grip with the finger over the trigger guard. Helps anchor it nicely. I don't know how well it works because I don't do that, but it's there. And overall, it's a very nicely made, very nicely fit and finished pistol, and it worked very well in the shooting, which you didn't get to see because I'm a Muppet. So overall, this is a really nice gun with a lot to recommend it. And they just completely flew under my radar. I just never really even thought about them because my interests in that time period kind of lay in other places. And since they have been discontinued, they seem to have been rediscovered recently. And there is a hue and cry arising to bring these guns back into production. And, you know, Smith & Wesson very sensibly went down the polymer striker fired rabbit hole and has produced some genuinely outstanding guns since these discontinued production. The M&P semi-autos have become a mainstay of the concealed carry and law enforcement market, and they are very, very good. But younger shooters are starting to discover the merits of more traditional formats. And, these guns are really good. So there is a lot of hue and cry to bring them back. Maybe that's viable in today's market. Smith & Wesson will surely figure it out. But I could see it. I could see a case for bringing these back because they're good, solid, dependable guns, and it's not like it's overly heavy or anything. I don't think the double stack magazine versions of these are significantly heavier. And of course, with today's magazine technology, you could easily put a 15-round magazine in a gun this size and format. And personally, I think it'd be a winner. I think people would really like it. And I think they'd sell. But that's just me. So it's time to somewhat reluctantly return this gun so that it can be sent along to its new owner. And I like it. I like it a lot. Prices on these are not ridiculous right now. So if you fancy having a go, now's the time, because I suspect these are going to get more expensive as time goes by, especially if Smith & Wesson does not bring them back into production. So that's it for this time. I hope this finds you well. Stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you again real soon.